Alex slams his fist on the emergency override, ignoring the Station I warnings about protocol violations, the reconnaissance shuttle already powering up in the hangar bay. Behind him, Lieutenant Commander Rivera, his second in command, rushes into the launch bay, her dark eyes wide with concern as she blocks his path, reminding him that his career cannot survive another act of insubordination. The Zelfarian diplomats flood into the hangar, their skin fluctuating between deep purple anxiety and red diplomatic outrage, their translator units struggling to keep up with their musical language. Alex brushes past Rivera with a determined stride, explaining over his shoulder that the distress signal contains royal encoding forgotten protocols from the first contact era, something the bureaucrats at Earth Command would take hours to authenticate. The shuttle bay doors slide open, revealing the vast emptiness of space, the distant star Proxima Centauri, casting a reddish glow across the void. Alex settles into the pilot's seat, his fingers dancing across the neural interface, the small craft responding to his thoughts as much as his commands. The Zelfarian diplomatic vessel attempts to hail him, their transmission filled with untranslatable harmonics, but the computer struggles to decipher. Alex cuts communication, focusing instead on the trajectory calculations that will bring him to the coordinates in the minimum possible time. The shuttle accelerates beyond safety parameters, the hull creaking under the strain of his reckless piloting. Behind him, Proxima Station grows smaller. Commander Vega, no doubt already composing the court-martial documents that will end his career. The thought brings a grim smile to his scarred face, his service record full of similar reprimands for prioritizing lives over regulations. The neural interface feeds tactical data directly into his visual cortex, the military-grade implants, another reminder of the Centauri conflict that left him more machine than he would prefer. The sensors detect weapons fire ahead, confirming his suspicions. This is no mere mechanical failure. As the shuttle clears the asteroid field surrounding the station, Alex, it's his first visual on the Zelfarian royal vessel, its bioluminescent hull, designed to mimic the sacred forests of their homeworld, now pulsing erratically with damaged signals, circling the crippled ship. 3 Krell raiders, their crystalline hulls absorbing, rather than reflecting light, making them nearly invisible against the backdrop of space, move with predatory precision, firing targeted shots at the royal vessel engine. Alex activates the tactical systems, the shuttle transforming from diplomatic transport to military-grade interceptor hidden weapons systems, emerging from concealed compartments, a parting gift from his old commander, who never fully trusted the peace with either Zelfarians or Krell. The shuttle computer warns of the overwhelming odds. 3 raiders, each capable of outgunning his small craft, the message scrolling across his vision in urgent red letters. With a whispered curse, Alex activates the prototype stealth system, the shuttle momentarily facing out of normal space, the sensation like being submerged in ice water. Technology not yet approved for deployment, but smuggled aboard by Alex after his last mission to the military research outpost on Europa. The Krell raiders continue their assault, oblivious to his approach, their attention focused on disabling rather than destroying the royal vessel, suggesting their mission is capture, not elimination. Alex positions his shuttle in the sensor shadow of the largest raider, the stealth system straining under the power requirements, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. He launches the first countermeasure, a burst of quantum particles that temporarily disrupt the crystalline communication network between the Krell vessels. The lead raider suddenly spirals out of formation, its navigational systems compromised. The remaining raiders break off their attacks, scanning for the source of interference. The royal vessel continues to drift, its engines dark, the hull breach visible along the starboard side, emergency force fields flickering as they struggle to maintain atmospheric integrity. Alex launches his second attack, a precision strike against the engines of the nearest raider, the experimental weapon piercing the crystalline armor like tissue paper, the disabled vessel spinning away into the darkness. The third raider, now aware of his presence, turns, bringing its main weapons array to bear, the crystalline structure of its hull beginning to glow with gathered energy. Alex executes a series of impossible maneuvers the shuttle systems, protesting with shrill alarms as he pushes the craft beyond design specifications, his neural implants interfacing directly with the flight controls, allowing microsecond adjustments. The final Krell raider fires its main cannon, the energy beam slicing through space, where his shuttle had been moments before Alex responds with a barrage of countermeasures electronic warfare packets, disrupting the crystalline communications network. The raider begins moving erratically, its systems compromised by the human attack algorithms designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in Krell technology, classified information Alex technically shouldn't possess. Seizing his advantage, Alex launches the remaining offensive payload, the experimental weapons, striking the raider with surgical precision, disabling its propulsion systems. Without triggering a catastrophic failure, the crystalline hull darkens as emergency systems activate the Krell equivalent of surrender. Alex pays it no attention, his focus entirely on the damaged royal vessel, now drifting without power, its bioluminescent hull pulsing weakly in distress patterns. Alex guides his shuttle to the emergency airlock visible along the royal vessel's port side, the docking procedure complicated by damage to the Zelfarian ship's systems, requiring him to manually override the airlock protocols. Using knowledge gained during diplomatic briefings, he was supposed to sleep through his combat suit seals automatically as he exits the shuttle, the atmosphere thin but breathable for humans with enhanced respiratory systems. The interior of the Zelfarian vessel, unlike anything in human design philosophy, the corridors appear ingrown, rather than constructed surfaces, pulsing with bioluminescent light that dims and brightens in response to his presence. The artificial gravity fluctuates as Alex navigates deeper into the vessel, following the distress beacon signal. The deck beneath his feet occasionally becoming viscous, before resolidifying, the signs of battle evident in scorch marks along the walls, and the bodies of Zelfarian guards, their armor made from the same organic material as the ship itself, their skin now dull and lifeless. Alex checks each Fallon guard for signs of life, finding none. His neural implants recalling everything for the inevitable inquiry that will follow his unauthorized rescue mission. The environmental systems continue to degrade, the temperature dropping rapidly as life support fails. Alex activates his suit's thermal regulation, the exoskeleton responding with a surge of warmth ahead. The corridor opens into what appears to be the command center of the vessel, the normally orderly layout of a Zelfarian bridge now in disarray, consoles damaged, and the central navigation cluster shaded. The biocomputers trying frantically to repair themselves, tendrils of living circuitry reaching Akro's damaged sections, seeking connections. In the center of the destruction, pinned beneath a fallen support beam, lies a Zelfarian female, her ornate armor and the complex patterns glowing beneath her translucent skin, marking her as royalty. Alex approaches, cautiously aware that Zelfarian royalty rarely leave their homeworld, especially unescorted. The princess remains conscious, her multifaceted eyes tracking his movement, her skin cycling through colors and distors. Peyton's the universal translator in his combat suit, struggling to decipher her high dialect. Alex knelt beside her, assessing the damage, the support beam too heavy for a Zelfarian to move, but manageable for a human with combat enhancements. He positions himself, carefully planting his bots on stable sections of the deck. With a grunt of effort, enhanced muscles straining against the weight, he lifts the beam, allowing the princess to slide free, her slender form more fragile than he expected. Without the ceremonial armor Zelfarian royalty typically wear in official transmissions, the princess attempts to stand, her limbs buckling beneath her. Alex catches her instinctively, her skin flaring bright blue. At his touch, the color spreading rapidly across her body in wave patterns, unlike anything covered in xenobiology briefings. Her six-fingered hand grasps his wrist with unexpected strength, the contact sending an electric sensation up his arm, a burning feeling left behind as her touch leaves a glowing pattern on his skin, resembling the royal markings visible beneath her translucent epidermis. The ship's systems suddenly wail in alarm, emergency light flashing as life support reaches critical failure. Alex has no time to consider the strange mark or the princess's reaction scoping her into his arms, he begins running back toward the airlock, her weight negligible to his enhanced strength behind them. The living ship seems to mourn its sections, shooting down systematically as it sacrifices non-essential areas to maintain life support in their path. The princess losing consciousness in his arms, her skin still pulsing with the strange blue patterns that now seem to synchronize with his heartbeat. Colonel Vega stalks around the medical bay, her military posture rigid with fury as she gestures toward the sedated princess, then back to the glowing mark on Alex's wrist, the pattern pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat behind her. The station's xenobiologist Dark Chen examines readings with increasing excitement, her professional curiosity overriding protocol. The diplomatic team's cultural expert, Professor Abrams, frantically searches through the Zelfarian cultural database, his holographic display flickering as he pulls ancient texts and ceremonial records. Earth Command representatives materialize one by one in the communication hub, their expressions transitioning from outrage to calculation as the situation's potential becomes clear. Lord Thax, the senior Zelfarian diplomat, remains prostrate, his forehead touching the deck, his skin cycling through formal patterns of deference that the station eye struggles to translate. The junior diplomats maintain a precise formation behind him, their movements synchronized in what appears to be a ceremonial response to royalty aboard the station. Alex stands uncomfortably in the center of the chaos, the mark on his wrist drawing all attention. His combat suit, now removed, revealing the glowing pattern, has spread tendrils up his forearm in delicate lines, mimicking Zelfarian script. Vega demands, answers, her voice cutting through the cacophony of medical equipment and diplomatic chatter, pointing out that Alex has violated 13 separate protocols, potentially triggering an interstellar incident that could collapse the fragile peace between humans and Zelfarians. Alex begins explaining his decision process, only to be interrupted by the monitoring equipment surrounding Princess Solara as her vital signs spike her consciousness. Returning, the medical team steps back, uncertainty in their expressions as her multifaceted eyes open, focusing immediately on Alex. Princess Solara sits upright with otherworldly grace, her movements fluid. Despite recent injuries, the medical restraints designed to accommodate Zelfarian physiology sliding away, as if responding to unspoken commands. Her skin transitions through colors, settling on a royal hue that causes Lord Thax to emit a high-pitched tone the universal translator identifies as formal recognition. She rises from the medical platform, her height impressive, even for a Zelfarian, her head nearly touching the ceiling of the medical bay as she extends to full height. Without addressing Colonel Vega or the diplomatic team, Princess Solara moves directly toward Alex, her focus unlovingly intense. She reaches out with 6 elongated fingers toward the mark on his wrist. Dark Chen steps forward, attempting to intervene on medical grounds, only to find herself gently moved aside by an invisible force. The princess touches the mark, causing it to flare brightly. In response, Alex feels a strange connection forming, his thoughts momentarily aligned with alien patterns of consciousness, ancient knowledge flooding his mind before receding like a tide, leaving behind fragments of understanding. The princess begins speaking, her voice musical and multi-layered, the translator struggling to convert the high Zelfarian dialect, the first words emerging clearly, sending shockwaves through the assembled diplomats. My chosen one, my savior, my calmer. The ancient words causing Lord Thax to emit a series of harmonic tones that the other Zelfarians immediately echo, the sound resounding through the medical bay. Professor Abrams gasps as his translation matrix finally processes the ancient texts, the holographic display highlighting ceremonial passages not seen in modern diplomatic exchanges. Alex steps back, confusion evident as the princess begins rearranging medical equipment, moving items with precise purpose, creating a pattern on the floor that Dark Chen recognizes as matching stellar constellations visible from the Zelfarian homeworld. Princess Solara, seemingly oblivious to the confusion, continues speaking. The translator, now converting her words, my genetic path has recognized its complement. The joining of houses has begun. Preparation must commence immediately. The sacred timeline cannot be altered. Colonel Vega demands explanation, her military authority meaningless in this unexpected diplomatic scenario. Professor Abrams finally looks up from his research, his face pale, as he explains that Alex has inadvertently triggered a biological recognition protocol dating back to pre-Lightspeed Selfarian culture, the royal bloodline designed to recognize genetic compatibility across species, a failsafe built into their engineered genome millennia ago. The princess, according to ancient tradition, has recognized Alex as her genetically compatible mate, the Kolmar bond, a biological imperative that cannot be denied without severe diplomatic consequences. The holographic figures of Earth Command fill the conference room, their translucent forms seated around the table opposite the station personnel. The highest-ranking official, Admiral Helena Zhao, her silver hair and decorated uniform projecting authority, even through the holographic medium, listens with increasing interest as xenobiologists outline potential benefits of the Kolmar bond, her gaze occasionally shifting to intelligence officers who nod subtly at key points. Colonel Vega stands rigidly by the tactical display, her face impassive, but her clenched fists betraying her frustration as Earth Command shifts from punishment to exploitation of Alex's situation. Professor Abrams projects ancient Zelfarian texts across the main screen, translating passages that haven't been seen by human eyes, complex diagrams of genetic bonding ceremonies, and royal protocols, causing the assembled scientists to murmur excitedly. Admiral Zhao raises her hand, silencing the room before addressing Alex directly, her voice carrying the weight of Earth Command. "We are ordering you to comply with the Zelfarian marriage protocol, gather all possible intelligence on their royal biotechnology, and maintain the diplomatic channel at all costs," her words leaving no room for objection, the career soldier in Alex responding with a crisp affirmative despite his internal resistance. Meanwhile, aboard Proxima Station, Princess Selara has claimed Alex's personal quarters as her temporary residence, the modest space transformed by her presence, Zelfarian artifacts now decorating the walls, living technology pulsing with soft light. The princess moves with methodical precision, scanning his belongings with scientific curiosity rather than romantic interest, her multifaceted eyes analyzing everything from his military decorations to the synthetic coffee in his cabinet, her questions rapid and disarmingly direct, ranging from human reproductive biology to tactical doctrine, each answer catalogued with unsettling efficiency. Alex returns to find his quarters rearranged according to some alien pattern, his few personal items organized by unknown criteria. The princess seated cross-legged on his bed, surrounded by floating holographic displays showing human anatomical diagrams alongside Zelfarian genetic structures, her skin shifting through analytical patterns. As she notices his arrival standing to her full height, she tilts her head in the Zelfarian gesture of recognition. "You have many questions," she states, rather than asks, the translator now calibrated to his speech patterns. "I have studied humans extensively. Your species fascinates me with its chaotic evolution, so unlike our engineered perfection." Before Alex can respond, the princess activates a holographic display showing surveillance footage of the Krell attack on her vessel, the images enhanced to show details his human eyes missed during the rescue, the raiders' movements revealing trained precision rather than opportunistic parasite. Selara manipulates the display, highlighting energy signatures not consistent with known Krell technology. "I was not merely traveling," she explains. "I was fleeing my vessel disguised to avoid detection." She waves her hand dismissively. "I had not anticipated the efficiency of their tracking technology." Alex studies the footage, his military training, recognizing the tactical formations used by the raiders, something beyond typical Krell attack patterns. The princess watches his reaction with scientific interest, making notes in a floating display visible only to her. "Your tactical analysis matches my own," she acknowledges. "This attack was coordinated and specifically targeted." Her skin darkening slightly as she speaks the translation software, identifying the color shift as concealment behavior. Alex looks up sharply. "Why would Krell target you specifically?" The princess meets his gaze, her multifaceted eyes unreadable. Princess Selara opens her mouth to respond when the station's alert system activates proximity warnings, blaring throughout the habitat. Alex moves to the communication panel, checking the automated defense readiness, the external cameras showing a massive vessel emerging from hyperspace, its organic architecture unmistakably Zelfarian, but on a scale that dwarfs any ship previously encountered by humans. The vessel assumes geosynchronous position above Proxima Station, its hull pulsing with communication patterns so complex they overload the translation matrix. The Imperial flagship of Emperor Zorax VIY has arrived, its presence triggering automated protocols throughout the station. Diplomatic channels suddenly flooded with high-priority communication, the Zelfarian diplomats aboard rushing to prepare formal reception areas. Solara watches the massive ship through the viewport, her posture suddenly rigid, formal patterns flickering across her skin. Her voice, when she speaks, carries new weight. My father grows impatient, she states. The ceremonial preparations must accelerate. Alex stares at the enormous vessel, realizing Earth Command never anticipated such immediate response from the Zelfarian Emperor himself. The stakes of his accidental engagement suddenly escalating beyond anything he could have imagined. The docking sequence echoes throughout Proxima Station, the massive Imperial vessel connecting to the human outpost through an extendable organic walkway that seals against the airlock with unsettling biological precision. Alex stands at attention in his dress uniform, the diplomatic corps arranged behind him in order of rank. Colonel Vega beside him, her expression professionally neutral, though her eyes convey clear warning. Ambassador Chen hastily briefing them on Imperial protocol, his words rushed as final preparations complete the airlock cycle's atmosphere, equalizing with a hiss of alien compounds that trigger warning sensors throughout the station. The inner doors part, revealing a corridor formed from living material that pulses with bioluminescent patterns. Royal guards step through first, their exoskeletons gleaming with ceremonial markings, their height impressive, even for Zelfarians, each carrying staff weapons that Earth intelligence has never been permitted to analyze. Behind them, court officials enter in precise formation, their skin cycling through patterns of formal announcement, the complex harmonics of their speech overwhelming translation software. Alex stands rigidly as royal attendants flow around him, arranging ceremonial objects in precise patterns, creating a pathway for what must be the Emperor himself. Emperor Zorax VEI enters the station, his massive form requiring him to bend slightly beneath the human-designed doorway, his royal exoskeleton adorned with living technology that shifts and adapts continuously. Small flying creatures orbiting him like satellites, their purpose unknown to human xenobiologists. The Emperor straightens to his full 4-meter height, his multifaceted eyes sweeping across the assembled humans before settling on Alex, the Imperial gaze tangibly heavy like physical pressure against his skin. Alex maintains his position, remembering briefing protocols about never initiating conversation with Zelfarian royalty. The Emperor approaches with deliberate movements, each step causing subtle vibrations through the deck plates. Small creatures scurrying before him, arranging themselves in patterns that the station eye frantically attempts to record for future analysis. Without warning, the Emperor extends a royal appendage toward Alex, the glowing mark on his wrist responding by pulsing brightly. Ambassador Chen inhales sharply, the diplomatic corps tensing at this unexpected breach of protocol. The Emperor examines the mark, his primary eyes blinking in vertical patterns that indicate royal interest, the universal translator finally calibrating to his subspecies dialect. You have bonded with my daughter. The Emperor's voice resonates through multiple harmonic ranges, simultaneously creating an almost physical sensation in Alex's chest. The human responds according to protocol, affirmative, Imperial Majesty. Though the circumstances were unintentional, the Emperor makes a sound that the translator hesitantly identifies as amusement. Intention is irrelevant to biology. The binding is recognized. His skin shifts through royal patterns that cause the assembled Zelfarian courtiers to emit harmonic tones of affirmation. Without warning, the Emperor gestures toward the station airlock. Now you will both return to the Imperial vessel. Preparation for the bonding ceremony must begin immediately, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. Colonel Vega steps forward. "Sir, with respect, Captain Morgan is still under Earth Command jurisdiction." The Emperor turns multifaceted eyes toward her, his exoskeleton shifting slightly to create a more imposing silhouette. The translator, struggling with the complex harmonics of his response, he carries the royal mark. "Human protocols are secondary to imperial necessity." Ambassador Chen intervenes diplomatically, "Perhaps a compromise." "Imperial Majesty." Captain Morgan, accompanied by a human delegation. The Emperor considers for precisely 3 seconds before responding. "Acceptable, but preparations begin now." He gestures toward Alex once again, the living components of his exoskeleton extending outward, unfolding into an ornate container that hovers before him. "Sealed documents inside my daughter's genetic analysis and compatibility projections. Data your scientists will find valuable." His eyes shift, indicating the exchange nature of diplomacy. "In return, Captain Morgan will undergo preliminary examination aboard the Imperial vessel." The living container floats toward Ambassador Chen, who accepts it with appropriate ceremonial gestures. Princess Selara appears from behind the Emperor, her royal attire transforming her from the curious scientist in Alex's quarters to an imperial figure of authority, her skin cycling through formal patterns as she approaches Alex, holding out a 6-fingered hand. In the human gesture of greeting, "She has clearly studied your species biology, makes you uniquely compatible with our current evolutionary needs," she states with scientific detachment, her skin betraying hints of excitement patterns. The translator identifies as research enthusiasm. The royal guards form a ceremonial corridor leading back to the Imperial vessel. Alex realizes he has no choice but to follow Earth Command's orders, carrying him forward into an alien world beyond anything in human experience. The Imperial vessel Eternal Blossom pulses with life around Alex, the corridors shifting subtly as he passes surfaces, responding to his presence in ways that human technology cannot match. The Earth delegation follows at a respectful distance, Ambassador Chen whispering cultural reminders that Alex barely registers. His attention focused on Princess Selara, who leads their procession through the living ship, her movements graceful yet precise, each gesture carrying royal significance. The delegation enters an enormous chamber that appears to be a hybrid of scientific laboratory and ceremonial space equipment beyond human technological understanding, arranged in patterns that seem both aesthetic and functional. Selfarian scientists move with purposeful efficiency around the chamber, their exoskeletons marked with academic insignia. Rather than military designation, their attention shifting to Alex as he enters, multifaceted eyes evaluating him with unsettling intensity. Princess Selara gestures toward a central platform pulsing with bioluminescent light. "Please position yourself there." The preliminary examination is non-invasive, her scientific detachment at odds with the ceremonial gravity of their surroundings. Alex complies, following Earth Command's directive to gather intelligence, the human delegation remaining near the entrance under the watchful eyes of royal guards. As Alex steps onto the platform, it responds to his weight, reconfiguring to support human physiology. Rather than Zelfarian, the chamber illuminates with patterns of light that sweep across his body, collecting data. Princess Selara moves to a control interface, her 6-fingered hands manipulating living technology with remarkable speed. Floating displays materializing around her, showing biological readouts. Alex recognizes his own genetic structure alongside Zelfarian comparison markers. The princess studies the results with scientific enthusiasm, her skin cycling through patterns of academic interest that betray her excitement. "Fascinating," she remarks. "Your enhanced musculature and skeletal density result from both genetic engineering and environmental adaptation. Unlike our purely designed evolution, the integration of external stimulus has created unpredictable advantages." Her scientific analysis continues as she circles the platform, directing sensors to gather more detailed information. "Your respiratory efficiency exceeds projections," she notes. "Military-grade enhancements." Alex confirms warzone adaptations. The princess nods, analyzing compatibility vectors, her eyes showing new respect for human ingenuity. Without warning, alarms blare throughout the chamber, security barriers forming around the perimeter, royal guards moving into defensive formations. Princess Solara accesses emergency systems, her movements suddenly urgent displays showing internal security breaches throughout multiple decks. Intruders moving with coordinated precision toward their location. Alex recognizes military tactics. Stepping off the examination platform, he addresses the princess. Those movement patterns match Krell infiltration procedures. She nods gravely, but with a strange lack of surprise, as though confirming a hypothesis. The Earth delegation clusters together. Ambassador Chen, demanding explanation as royal guards create a protective formation around Princess Solara. She silences them with a gesture, directing her attention to Alex. Instead, "I believe my brother has made his move," she states, her tone clinically detached. Activating command protocols, she brings up ship schematics, showing hostile forces converging on their position. Prince Sela never accepted the genetic diversification initiative. He believes Zelfarian purity must be maintained. Her matter-of-fact delivery belying the severity of her words. Alex assesses the tactical situation, immediately recognizing the professional precision of the attacking force. These aren't random assassins, they're trained military operatives. The princess nods, accessing weapon systems through the living interface. "Your tactical assessment matches my own. These are elite guards loyal to my brother, specifically trained to eliminate genetic contamination." Her choice of words causing Ambassador Chen to pale visibly, the implications for the human delegation becoming clear. Without warning, the chamber entrance ruptures. Assassins in specialized armor breaching the security barrier. Their weapons, unlike standard Zelfarian design, optimized for close quarters combat. The royal guards move to intercept, creating a defensive perimeter around Princess Solara. Alex reacts instinctively, his military training activating as he grabs a ceremonial staff from a fallen guard, the weapon surprisingly responsive in his hands, almost intuitive in its balance. Ambassador Chen shouts for him to stand down, diplomatic protocols forgotten in the chaos, but Alex has already engaged the first assassin. Princess Solara watches with scientific fascination as Alex adapts instantly to the alien weapon, his combat style integrating human martial techniques with the staff's capabilities in ways no Zelfarian could achieve. His enhanced strength, allowing him to wield the ceremonial weapon with devastating effectiveness against the first wave of attackers. The princess accesses defensive systems, using the distraction to reconfigure chamber security. Even as she analyzes Alex's combat efficiency, her multifaceted eyes recording data for future study. Behind her, the Earth delegation stares in shock as their military escort demonstrates exactly why humans are considered dangerous throughout the galaxy. Luminaria hangs in the viewport like a bioluminescent jewel, swirling colors across its atmosphere, communicating planetary conditions to approaching vessels. Beside Alex, Princess Solara stands motionless, her skin cycling through formal arrival patterns. As the Imperial flagship begins descent procedures behind them, the Earth delegation whispers among themselves. Ambassador Chen, attempting to appear calm despite the tension evident in his posture. The journey from Proxima Station has transformed the diplomatic mission into something far more complex than anyone anticipated. 3 assassination attempts repelled Alex's combat skills, earning reluctant respect from the royal guards, while Princess Solara's scientific understanding of ship systems repeatedly outmaneuvered her brother's agents. The capital city sprawls across the horizon, its organic architecture unlike anything on Earth, structures that appear grown rather than built, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that serve both aesthetic and functional purposes. Princess Solara gestures towards specific districts, explaining their purpose, her scientific detachment occasionally slipping to reveal genuine pride in her civilization's achievements. The cultural districts, where artistic expression through bioengineering creates living sculptures. The academic towers, where genetic scientists refine the Zelfarian genome. The royal complex dominating the center, its ancient structures predating space travel. Alex listens with professional attention, gathering intelligence as ordered by Earth Command, but finding himself genuinely fascinated by Zelfarian culture. The princess notices his interest, her scientific evaluation of him evolving into something more collegial. You appreciate systems. She observes most humans we encounter focus on individual components rather than holistic integration. Alex responds thoughtfully. Military strategy requires understanding both details and overall patterns. Her multifaceted eyes study him with new consideration. Your thought processes are surprisingly compatible with our scientific methodology. The flagship docks with the royal complex, extending organic walkways that pulse with recognition patterns. As the princess approaches, Alex follows the Earth delegation, maintaining diplomatic formation behind them. Royal guards, creating a ceremonial escort. Princess Selara leads them through corridors of increasing grandeur, ancient patterns inscribed in living walls, recording the genetic history of their species. Ambassador Chen whispers translations of ceremonial texts, his voice hushed with academic excitement at accessing cultural artifacts previously hidden from human scholars. They enter an enormous preparation chamber where genetic priestesses await their exoskeletons adorned with symbols of ancient bloodlines dating back to press-based light eras. The senior priestess approaches Princess Selara, performing complex gestures that the translator struggles to interpret before turning multifaceted eyes toward Alex. The human must undergo genetic purification before entering the royal databases. Her harmonics, shifting to formal register, the ancient protocols must be observed despite modern necessities. Alex looks questioningly toward Ambassador Chen, who nods affirmation. Earth Command anticipated ritual preparations, though not their specific nature. Princess Selara intercedes, her royal authority evident in her posture. The human genetics requires specialized protocols. I will oversee the process personally. The priestesses exchange harmonic tones of surprise, but defer to royal authority. Alex is led to a central platform surrounded by technology that appears ceremonial, yet contains advanced scanning capabilities beyond anything humans have encountered. As the genetic priestesses begin preparation rituals, Alex realizes the extent of Zelfarian biotechnology. The ceremonial robes they place on him contain microscopic organisms that interface with his nervous system, creating strange sensory experiences, colors beyond human perception, sounds that exist in multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, Princess Selara observes the process with scientific detachment, occasionally correcting the priestess's procedures with surprising authority. Alex catches her gaze, silently questioning. She approaches, speaking quietly. These preparations are traditionally managed by the genetic priestesses, but their methodologies are based on ancient practices, not optimized for human physiology. I have modified the protocols. Unexpectedly, Princess Selara dismisses the attendants, creating a moment of privacy rare in the ceremonial environment. She activates privacy fields, her demeanor shifting from royal formality to scientific directness. We have limited time before my brother attempts another intervention, she states, accessing secure systems through her royal interface. The scope of Prince Seller's conspiracy is greater than initially calculated. The fate of my species rests on successful genetic diversification. Alex studies her with new understanding. You've been planning this for generations. She acknowledges with scientific precision. My ancestors recognized our evolutionary dead end 10 generations ago. Human genetic adaptability represents our best opportunity for survival. The imperial ceremonial chamber stretches impossibly vast before Alex, its living architecture pulsing with ancestral patterns that date back millennia. Delegates from 12 species fill the tiered observation platforms, their varied physiologies creating a panorama of galactic diversity. Earth representatives appear uncomfortably formal in their diplomatic attire, standing out among the organic clothing and exoskeletons of other species. Alex stands at the center of it all, the ceremonial garments provided by the genetic priestesses shifting colors in response to his emotional state, betraying his tension despite military discipline. Princess Selara appears at the far entrance, her royal procession, moving with choreographed precision, genetic priestesses flanking her path, royal guards maintaining ceremonial formation. Her appearance, transformed from the scientific researcher Alex first encountered, she now embodies imperial authority, her skin cycling through royal patterns that silence the assembled dignitaries. Ambassador Chen whispers translations of the ceremonial harmonics, his voice barely audible as the princess approaches the central platform. Alex notes subtle changes in her appearance, her features appearing slightly more human than before, evidence of genetic modifications already implemented. Emperor Zorax VEI observes from his elevated throne, his massive form imposing even at a distance, royal attendants positioned precisely according to ancient protocols, his multifaceted eyes watching with analytical detachment rather than paternal interest, evaluating the ceremony as a scientific procedure rather than a cultural event. Prince Seller, conspicuously absent his opposition to the genetic diversification initiative, now public knowledge after the failed assassination attempts, royal guards, particularly vigilant eyes constantly scanning for threats among the diplomatic delegations. The genetic priestesses begin the bonding ritual, their movements synchronized as they create complex harmonic patterns that resonate throughout the chamber, activating living technology embedded in the ancient walls. Alex follows his diplomatic briefing, performing the human portions of the ceremony with military precision. Princess Selara responds with perfect formal movements, her scientific understanding of the rituals evident in her efficient gestures. Ambassador Chen appears increasingly concerned, whispering urgent observations to Earth Command representatives as the ceremony progresses, the rituals deviating from expected protocols in subtle but significant ways. Without warning, security alarms blare throughout the chamber, royal guards moving into defensive formations around Princess Selara and Emperor Zorax VEI. The diplomatic delegations reacting with various degrees of alarm and confusion. Alex recognizes the tactical situation immediately, the ceremonial chamber suddenly transforming into a battlefield as previously concealed doors burst open, revealing armed infiltrators, their weapons designed to penetrate royal guard armor. The attack pattern suggesting inside knowledge of security protocols. Princess Selara reacts with surprising combat readiness for a scientific researcher, activating defensive systems through her royal interface, the living architecture of the chamber responding to her commands, creating barriers between the attackers and diplomatic delegations. Emperor Zorax VEI remains seated, his apparent calm belied by the intense activity of his attendants implementing emergency protocols. Alex finds himself separated from the Earth delegation, surrounded by advancing hostiles, their movements identifying them as the same elite force from previous assassination attempts. Alex reacts instinctively to the ceremonial garments, unexpectedly enhancing his movements, interfacing with his combat implants in ways human technology never could. The bioengineered fabric providing both protection and amplification of his strength. He seizes a ceremonial staff from a fallen guard, the weapon responding to his grip. As though designed for human use, Princess Selara observes his adaptation with scientific interest, even while coordinating defensive measures through royal systems, her multifaceted eyes recording data even in crisis. Prince Seller emerges from among the attackers, his royal exoskeleton modified for combat, his skin pulsing with patterns of righteous conviction, addressing the assembled delegates directly. Witness the abomination that would corrupt our sacred bloodline. His harmonics translated across all diplomatic channels, he gestures toward Princess Selara. My sister would dilute our genetic purity with inferior species, destroying millennia of careful engineering. Emperor Zorax VEI finally rises from his throne, his voice resonating with imperial authority. Observe instead the evidence of our failure to adapt. His response shocking the Zelfarian delegates. The ceremonial chamber erupts into chaos as delegates scramble for safety, diplomatic protocols forgotten. Alex finds himself fighting alongside Princess Selara, their combat styles complementing each other, his physical strength and tactical training Matching her control of environmental systems and royal technology, Prince Zella's forces press forward with military precision, their weapons specifically designed to target genetic anomalies, a fact that becomes clear as they focus fire on areas where Princess Selara shows signs of human genetic modification. Emperor Zorax HFY watches the conflict, his expression unreadable, his lack of intervention appearing to be a final test of both combatants and the viability of genetic integration. The aftermath of Prince Zella's failed coup spreads across the imperial capital buildings, pulsing with news patterns that communicate the events to all citizens. Alex stands before the reconstructed throne room, his ceremonial garments replaced with a hybrid uniform combining Terran military elements with Zelfarian royal insignia. The mark on his wrist now expanded into intricate patterns that extend to his shoulder. Ambassador Chen and the Earth delegation positioned respectfully behind him, their expressions revealing mixture of diplomatic satisfaction and lingering concern. Princess Selara enters with imperial procession, her appearance noticeably transformed, genetic modifications now evident in her physiology, subtle human characteristics integrated into her Zelfarian form. Emperor Zorax HFY follows the throne room, falling silent as he takes his position. Emperor Zorax HFY addresses the assembled dignitaries, his voice resonating through multiple harmonic ranges. Today marks a turning point in Zelfarian evolution. Our carefully engineered society has reached its limitations. Despite millennia of genetic refinement, he gestures toward displays showing population statistics, declining birth rates, failed adaptations to changing environmental conditions, statistics previously hidden from both Zelfarians and Galactic allies. Princess Selara steps forward, her scientific authority evident as she activates detailed genetic projections. Without intervention, our species faces extinction within 3 generations. Our perfect design has become our greatest vulnerability. Alex watches the princess with new understanding, seeing now the enormity of her scientific undertaking, the desperate gamble that led her to arrange her own kidnapping and rescue, specifically targeting him based on genetic profiles gathered through covert monitoring of human communications. The genetic priestesses reveal ancient texts showing that the Kolmar bond was created specifically for this eventuality, a failsafe embedded in royal genetics millennia ago by ancestors who foresaw the evolutionary dead end of perfect engineering. Princess Selara addresses the assembled diplomats. The royal bloodline contains markers designed to recognize compatible genetic structures across species, ensuring our ability to adapt when necessary. Emperor Zorax HFY rises, approaching Alex with formal imperial movements, his enormous height emphasizing the physical differences between their species. The Kolmar bond transcends traditional concepts of marriage, he explains, gesturing toward Princess Selara. It represents genetic partnership, evolutionary alliance, a new path forward for our civilization. Prince Selo was correct about one thing, he continues. This changes everything we have been, but ensures we will continue to exist. The Emperor turns toward the Earth delegation, his multifaceted eyes focusing on Ambassador Chen. Human adaptability combined with Zelfarian biotechnology offers advantages neither species could achieve alone. Ambassador Chen steps forward, formal diplomatic protocols giving way to genuine scientific interest. Earth is prepared to expand our alliance beyond traditional boundaries, genetic exchange programs, medical research initiatives, technological collaboration. Princess Selara joins the conversation, her scientific enthusiasm evident as she activates displays showing potential applications: human-enhanced regeneration, Zelfarian extended lifespan, the possibilities expanding across multiple scientific disciplines. Alex observes the proceedings, his military background providing unique perspective on both the opportunities and potential dangers of such collaboration. Emperor Zorax HFY addresses Alex directly. You have fulfilled the ancient protocols, but modern interpretation allows flexibility. The Kolmar bond establishes you as genetic partner to the royal bloodline. but not necessarily traditional consort responsibilities, can be negotiated according to mutual benefit, Alex responds with formal diplomatic language enhanced by his newfound understanding of Zalfarian culture, his proposed terms reflecting both Earth Command directives and his own evolving perspective on interspecies cooperation. Princess Selara watches with scientific interest, her evaluation of him now encompassing both genetic compatibility and personal respect. One solar cycle later, Alex stands on the observation deck of the newly established Interspecies Academy, his role transformed from military captain to ambassador between worlds. Princess Selara, beside him, her scientific research now focused on practical applications of genetic exchange. Students from both species moving through the corridors below, their collaborative projects already yielding results beyond either civilization's individual capabilities. The princess monitors incoming data, her multifaceted eyes analyzing patterns that suggest Krell activity beyond expected parameters. Alex recognizes the tactical implications immediately, his military instincts complementing her scientific analysis. Together, they recognize the signs. The Krell forces were never simply raiders, but advanced scouts for something larger approaching from beyond the outer colonies. As they activate emergency protocols, the dormant mark on Alex's wrist pulses in harmony with the princess's royal patterns, their genetic connection transcending traditional concepts of partnership, representing instead the first step in a new evolutionary direction for both species. Humans contributing adaptability and resourcefulness, Zalfarians offering biotechnology and genetic engineering, together forming the foundation for a defensive alliance against threats neither civilization could face alone.